Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are joining today from. My name is Phil Tarbox, National Sales Manager for Business Solutions for D-Link here in Australia. It's great to have your company with us today, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's live on today's webinar, coming to you out of Sydney, Australia, or whether you're catching up on our YouTube channel. It's great to have your company with us today as we take a look at the fascinating subject of industrial switching. We've got a whole host of guests that are joining us this morning or today. So I'd like to quickly make an introduction to those people. As always, my number one partner in crime right beside me, we have Ilya, our commercial product manager that's joining us today. Ilya, a very good day to you. Great to have you on board with us today. And I also have just sitting right beside me in the D-Link support office in Sydney, Australia, pre-sales engineer David Urbano. Greetings to you, David. And I'm also very pleased to say that we've got two guest speakers that'll be joining us today to give us some real life experience of using the D-Link for Business range of industrial switches. It's a good day to Haydn Kemmery, Group IT Manager at Fitzroy Australia Resources.
Hi Phil, hi guys.
And also to Jason Banner, Network Engineer at Security and Technology Services. Jason, greetings to you. Okay, so without any further ado, we shall get started. Before we do that, I should say that today's session is being recorded. We will be having a live Q&A session at the end of today's session as well on the Zoom platform, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with over the last 6 months. There is a Q&A box. Please drop your questions into that Q&A section in there. And at the end of today's session, we will come back and we will answer all of those questions that you have, not only for myself, for David and for Ilya from a D-Link perspective, but I'm hoping that there'll be some questions for Haydn and for Jason as well. Both of those gentlemen will be staying on till the end of the session as well. All right, so let's get started. Here's what we're going to be covering today. So quick overview as to who D-Link are. We'll be looking at the range of D-Link industrial switches. Haydn will be talking to us about building a total solution, and there's certainly some pretty fascinating technology that the team at Fitzroy Australia Resources have, and a pretty interesting way in which they're using the D-Link industrial switches as well as our fully managed layer 3 switches in their at the core of their network as well. David will be talking about DView 7 management, which I know some of our customers today are using. Certainly it's something, it's a product that we ourselves here at D-Link don't quite talk about enough. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from David and having a bit of a look at that as well. Jason will be talking about his experience as being a partner of D-Link's and working with us and selling our products as well. Finally, quick overview of our partner program, and as promised, we'll be coming back to our Q&A session right at the end of today's session as well. So let's get started. So very quickly, why D-Link for Business? Well, certainly D-Link has been around and has been a leader in the business networking space for a significant period of time, some 34 years since 1986. Since we were founded. Headquartered in Taiwan, we've certainly been a leader in the electronic space and very much focused in the business and also consumer networking spaces as well. According to Gartner, worldwide, we're number 1 for standalone wireless access points and the number 3 worldwide for gigabit Ethernet ports shipped. Both very significant achievements in what is a very competitive market space and certainly a saturated market space as well. In each of the business or the networking technology areas that we play in, we've got a very wide range of products. So certainly from core networking products going from 100, 40, 25, and also 10 gigabit networks, of course, going out to fully managed layer 3 switches, going right out to the edge of the network with edge networking products, with PoE being a very big driver of our business. Lots of PoE devices that are needing to get connected into networks. And of course, a very big range of switching with 10 gig uplinks as well, which is fast becoming a real must-have, even in the small and medium-sized business segment space as well. From a wireless networking point of view, we've got a full range of managed wireless as well as standalone wireless products, which we've been very successful in. And just on, for just on 12 months now, we've been shipping our Nucleus range of cloud managed networking products as well. Looking at IP surveillance, again, we've got a full range of product available both for indoor and for outdoor, with a hardware-based NVR as well as software that is able to be installed and run up on your own server equipment as well. So a very broad range of product that is available in the D-Link for Business portfolio. We're a great company to partner with, being that there's many solutions that we're able to bring together with singular ways of managing all of these devices as well. Certainly we can be your go-to vendor for lots of different types of solutions that you're looking for. In addition to our wide product range, we offer fully supported technical training nationally. Certainly during the year that we've had in 2020, that's been somewhat challenging for us to be able to deliver technical training, but that hasn't actually stopped us. Huge kudos to our technical and support teams, ably led by Ilya, who has gone and delivered and created a lot of new content for us, all delivered via Zoom. David and Aaron have both delivered, Aaron Bilton, our pre-sales engineer based in Melbourne, have gone and delivered some really terrific content on switching, wireless, and we're halfway through a technical training sessions on routing at the moment. Of course, all of these courses can be found on our YouTube channel. So in YouTube, go and search for D-Link Australia or D-Link New Zealand, go to playlists and then select webinars, and you'll find all of the past webinars that we've done. I would certainly commend any of those technical sessions for you to have a look at. So both from a partner point of view and a customer point of view, D-Link is here to give you the support that you expect with a limited lifetime warranty across all of the D-Link for Business branded product. Next business day advanced replacement. That's all supplied out of our Sydney head office here. All product is warehoused here. So that's certainly very achievable for us to be able to deliver that. And of course, you've got access to technical support for the lifetime of the product as well. Again, that's all done out of our Sydney head office here in Australia. So lots of great ways in which we help you, our customer and our partner, to be able to deliver the type of solution that either you're looking for or your customers expect as well. So why industrial switches? Why has D-Link moved into this particular space? So I guess just a couple of quick things here on our industrial switch products. And certainly Australia can be a pretty harsh country in terms of our environment. So all of the industrial switches that we bring into Australia have very wide temperature variances, going from -40 to 75 degrees. Not so many places that get down to -40, but as we'll hear both from Haydn and from Jason, lots of places which are able to really push that 75-degree threshold. Of course, the housings for all of these products are very durable as well, with an IP rating of 30. So 0 there being related to water, the 3 relating to the dust ingress that's on that particular product. So that's quite a good rating on those on our range of industrial switches. Something that customers are looking for is redundancy in any of these network installations as well. There's lots of places where these products are being installed where things like redundancy are very, very critical. So of course, D-Link is very much a standards-based organisation, so we support all the leading industry standards, being ERPS and R3, otherwise known as Rapid Recovery Ring. So really important when you're setting up multiples of these switches that there's some self-healing component there in terms of making sure that the network is super resilient, is able to deliver those services that customers are looking for. So what sort of solutions are out there that we're seeing that our range of industrial switches are being installed into? So we're seeing, and there's certainly a very big driver for smart installations. Certainly a very big buzzword. The Australian government, along with the NZ government, is providing a lot of grants for lots of types of installations for both for large and for regional cities to go and to try and improve the lives and the safety of their residents. So you'll hear things about smart cities. If you go and Google smart cities, there's lots and lots of information that you'll find about smart cities and what they are and why they're important and why governments in particular and local governments are wanting to invest in these sorts of things. So where do industrial switches fit into all of this? And why is D-Link a good fit in these places? Certainly for things like smart campus, so going into schools and universities, and city surveillance programs are really, really important. Of course, the safety of citizens is certainly something that that governments and cities and councils and so on are wanting to do. So across all our range of products, we've got enough bandwidth on all of our switches to be able to deliver up to 4K and 8K video. Of course, deployments are able to be done both indoors and outdoors, and we've got a full range of both PoE and non-PoE switches. We're seeing a lot of automation go into transportation, whether that's on the side of a highway with things like tolling and so on, or in railways. We're certainly seeing a lot of things that are happening in those sorts of areas. Something Haydn will be talking about is a number of the IoT type sensors that are being deployed in the installations that he's doing at the moment. So we're seeing a lot of trains, even here in Sydney. There's a lot of IoT components that are being installed on trains. If you've used any of the apps, the transportation apps that are available, you're able to get an indication as to which carriages are full and which carriages are empty, which can help you make a great decision as to where I'm going to be able to get a seat. That's all being delivered with Ethernet technology, using IoT sensors and these sorts of things. Transportation is very much a big area, a big component in the whole smart cities development. Scaling things back somewhat, we look at warehousing. A lot of warehousing is moving to automation, and of course warehouses can be pretty unforgiving environments as well, with lots of dust, with lots of impact that can be there around vibration and so on. So having equipment that's been manufactured to be able to deal with all of those environments is something that's really important. And of course that R3, that rapid redundant ring support, is really important from a redundancy point of view. And if any of you have been into a shopping mall in any time in the last 12 to 24 months, you would have seen a lot of automation that's been happening from a parking point of view, with license plates being scanned, of course electronic payments being done at the boom gates and gates opening up automatically as well. So there's a lot that's happening there, and of course all of these solutions are all being delivered via IP, via Ethernet, and having infrastructure in the back end that's able to support that is becoming vitally important. Things like reliability, things like things like redundancy are all going to drive the success of these implementations. So just looking at I guess a very basic installation here as to what a installation of surveillance in a city might look like, where we've got curbside cabinets where a network switch is being provided in there. And of course, there's going to be interconnectivity between each of those cabinets, either running via fibre or via Ethernet. And of course, all of that, the way all of that is being patched together is able to give you that full amount of redundancy there as well. And of course, a curbside cabinet, it's going to get warm. Australia is a hot country, and of course, the further north you go, the warmer things are going to go as well. We'll certainly hear from Jason right in the northern part of the country as to how the D-Link switches have been going in a number of installations that they've done. Again, we look at a tolling type application. Again, we've got a roadside cabinet, which of course can bring about a whole bunch of different challenges as well. What's the power like that's actually being delivered to that cabinet? Of course, the full range of D-Link industrial switches does give you 6 kV surge protection that is there as well. And of course, toll companies will tell you that it's absolutely mission critical that their tolling devices are able to be powered all the time. They're able to collect that data because they need to be able to bill all of the cars that are moving across their roads for them to be able to make money. Just a couple of examples as to where industrial Ethernet switching is being installed and being used in places today that we might not even be aware of. I guess blissfully unaware that all of these sorts of things are happening. So how do these products work? Do they have a standard power supply? Well, typically the answer to that is no, that there's a industrial type power supply. And we can see a couple of examples of some mean well power supplies that are being used here to power our very popular DIS 200G series of switch. For the non-PoE versions, we've got a power input of between 12 and 48 volts of DC. And for the PoE versions, there's up to 54 volts of DC power that is able to be put in there. Of course, all of these switches, certainly all of the managed ones, do give you multiple power inputs, again, for additional redundancy that's going into these products as well. There's also some I/O connections that are in there as well. So being some in-out connections, so there's some triggers that are able to be set if certain things have or haven't happened. So you can see here an example as to where a flashing light has been connected, which gives an indication if a particular criteria has been met that you've set up in the switch. In this instance, when power has failed on that particular switch. If we look at mounting options, there's certainly plenty of these mounting options that are available for these products. Of course, installing things inside of a cabinet, there may well be a DIN rail that is in there. So there's a DIN rail mount that is available across our range of products. They can be installed onto a wall. There's some screw hooks that are able to be installed on. And there is some optional rack mount kits which are available as well for our rack mountable switches. Having a quick look at our range of product, we've got a range of both managed and unmanaged switches. Our unmanaged switch range has expanded a little bit just in the last 6 months. With 2 8-port switches that have been added to that range as well. Neither of these guys do have PoE. You can see here that the DIS 100G5 PSW is the only PoE switch that is available in our unmanaged range of product. Just in the last couple of months, we have also added in a industrial media converter, the DIS M100G. with one gig Ethernet port and one SFP port that's available there. So again, that does need to be powered via a DC power source. There's no power plug for that, so there is a power supply you do need to purchase for that product. But again, we expect that that product is going to fill a bit of a gap in our range, and undoubtedly there's going to be some customers that are going to be able to make use of those products. If we look at our range of managed industrial switches, in addition to our 200G series of product, which we've been selling across Australia for just a bit over 2 years now, we've both got a PoE and a non-PoE version of these products, 10 gigabit ports, 2 1 gig fiber ports, and either 0 or 8 PoE plus ports with a PoE budget of 130 watts. Augmenting that range, we'll be receiving very soon our first shipment of the DIS 300G series of product. And I know that Haydn at Fitzroy is certainly keen to get his hands on this particular range of product as well. So 2 PoE products in this range of switch. The 4-port version with 120 watts of PoE budget, which you can see there, up to 30 watts per port. You can deliver full PoE plus across all ports. And there's a 240 watt budget switch with 8 PoE ports as well. 4 1 gig SFP fiber ports on each of those switches as well. So we're certainly very much looking forward to welcoming those, that particular range or series of product into our range as well. Okay, so when it comes to smart city solutions, certainly we've got a very comprehensive range of switching product. As you can probably gather, there's a bunch of additional components or products that are needed for that as well. So it's great to have the Ethernet connectivity sorted out, but how do I get connectivity going back to the rest of the world? Certainly in the 4G, 5G space, there's a lot of product that we've got going into this particular area. We've had a lot of success with the DWM312 dual SIM router, and we'll be shipping very, very soon the DWM315. Apologies for the typing error there. We'll be launching the DWM315 dual SIM router, which will have the ability with the feature of GPS going into that particular product as well. Of course, we've got a full range of wireless access points with a couple of Wi-Fi access points in this range here, shipping today, the DWL8720 and the DAP3666, either a managed or a standalone dual band wireless access points, both delivering 802.11ac Wave 2. Both of those products are IP67 rated, so very much able to be installed in a fully outdoor environment. We've also got a full range of IP surveillance cameras as well. So please, if you're not familiar with any of these products, talk to your D-Link account manager. We'll put up those details at the end of the presentation. And we're more than happy to arrange a demonstration or evaluation product or to come out and talk to you either physically or virtually about how a D-Link solution is able to help you and your customer out. Okay, I'd now like to introduce Haydn to the group today. Haydn, welcome this morning or today. It's great to have you joining us.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here.
Excellent. So you're the Group IT Manager at Fitzroy Australia Resources. Can you tell us a little bit about, yourself, some of the, your history, what you've been doing in your career so far?
Okay, so I'm the Group IT Manager for Fitzroy Australia Resources. We're a coal mine in central Queensland. So one of the things that we have to look after is, as any IT manager does, is the components of our network. And we have two specific areas in the mining industry of network. One is what we call the corporate network, which is what most people in their offices have, where you have your PCs, workstations, and server infrastructure. And we also have our production network, which is where our OT, IoT, as well as some IT assets sit. So we have a management of two separate type of networks. So one of the things that we have to do is make sure our general corporate employees are looked after in regards to communication infrastructure and everything else. But we also need to make sure that our automation engineers, the mining operators, the process control engineers also have the access to the systems as we move through Industrial 4 type technology. The Industrial 4 technology, one of the things that drives for us is four major components. As anyone who works in the industry will know, that we are seeing a rise in data volumes because of Industry 4. We're seeing emerging analytics, and that emerging analytics is also seeing an increase in data flow as well. And as well as emerging technologies with regards to AI and machine control. So those functionalities of machine control can be driven at the machine or now from surface operations. So there's a reliance on the communication infrastructure we have.
Okay, mate. It sounds. I know certainly in the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. I'd be quite happy to talk to you for hours about all of this stuff. It sounds like you're really pushing, pushing, I guess, the boundaries, and really at the cutting edge of a lot of technology. So before we, I guess, get into that, just tell us a little bit about the, I guess, the environment that that you're using these switches in. Now, you say you're mining coal. Coal is well, it certainly is a four-letter word. That's a little bit on the nose, isn't it? We're sort of getting out of coal mining, aren't we, in Australia?
There's two types of coal. So we're metallurgical coal. So we provide coal for furnaces, so for your metal work, and anyone who manufactures anything. So if you have a car or even an iPhone, that metalwork is forged. So that usually comes from some type of refinery. So we sell coal for steelworks.
Okay, so Australia, I guess, is pretty blessed to have a lot of different types of resources. So metallurgical coal, that's I guess needed to heat up steel to points where we can go and make cars and phones and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's correct. Without it, we don't have those.
Okay, all right. So something that's pretty important. You mentioned, I guess, AI, lots of data analytics, and so on. IoT devices. What I guess tell us about your network and all of these types of devices that are running on the network.
So we have a bunch of devices that run on the network. That can be anything along the lines of monitoring systems. Can be water monitoring, moisture monitoring, dust monitoring, gas monitoring, weight systems. So we have belts that run, so we measure the weights coming off of those belts. We monitor machines for amperage draw and so forth. So most of that comes back on a PLC device, which is an IP device, and that talks back to a central unit. So ensuring we have communications between those 2 points is very important for improving business operations. We need to look at those trends, analyse those trends, and then actually react to those trends.
Okay, so the network, the network itself, and what I might do is actually just bring up a couple of images of some of the types of equipment that you use in your mine. Maybe you can just quickly talk to us lay people about what you've got installed. You mentioned so it's a long wall mining that you're doing. What's this device here that that we've got pictured on the screen now?
So the long wall is a type of mining. So you're looking there at a whole long wall. So you've got your shields and your shearer and your chain there that you can see. Basically, this is how they extract the coal from the seam, and that's pulled back into a unit fed to the surface. So that goes through a bunch of equipment. So the miner there feeds it back onto a feed breaker and then out onto belts and to the surface. Not quite in that order, but that's how that functions. Those devices are controlled by operators. that also has telemetry data, which is reported to the surface operators for review. So that provides, that's provided on an IP-based system. So there'll be a local point where the data's collected, and then that's forwarded to the surface. So having communications to those areas is key. So we have D-links within fireproof enclosures underground because it's an intrinsically safe area. So those particular D-link devices are locked in boxes. So they get extremely hot down there because there's no airflow, there's no breathing. When I say no breathing, the equipment's not breathing. So it's basically in a still tight container. So as they operate, as you can imagine, they do generate a bit of heat, and that heat doesn't dissipate into the air. It's confined within the box.
Okay. All right. So here's another device that's in there. What's this guy?
It's a continuum miner that's used in the development areas where they prepare for the longwalls. So that, once again, is a device. So that is actually, once again, it does get monitored via PLC type devices, and that information is then collected once again and sent to the service for analytics. So you'll be looking at temperature levels, methane levels, and when I say methane levels, that's separate to the actual gas monitoring that's on the equipment itself. And all the safety systems that go along with that to ensure that the operators are working safely in the environment, the actual surrounding environment that the machine's working in is a safe environment as well for the employees.
Yep. Okay, so that's a, I guess just a quick snapshot as to where everything sort of fits in together. Sean, this is all underground. Lots of fun, I imagine, for people being under there. These sorts of bits of equipment, roughly how much are they worth? You know, the continuous miner and the longwall miner.
I couldn't tell you the exact figures, but they are in the millions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very, very interesting. So I guess just looking at, you know, some of these things here, this sort of mine everything looks like it's moving pretty continually. How is that what sort of challenges does that present?
The equipment itself has a set of proprietary gear that comes back to, so that does move back and forth, and it can move several hundred meters in a forward and backwards direction, and that basically mines the coal seam. So having communication there, when that happens, they're running a bunch of dust suppression and processes that the mining teams use to actually ensure that environment is safe and low dust. So when we're working in those environments, you do have issues with dust ingress into equipment and so forth. Once again, the D-links that we use are in fireproof enclosures, so they are locked in tight, contained, and periodically inspected by the electrical teams. So I couldn't give you the full details on that for the EMMs, but we are confronted with high heat temperatures within those particular units for equipment because they do not have airflow.
Sure. So it's mostly the, I think the DIS 200G switches that you've got that are underground at the moment. You have got some 300s that are on order, which we are getting our first delivery of those in the next few weeks. At the core of your network, you've got some 3630 layer, DGS 3630 layer 3 managed switches. I think you're also using the DView 7 network management product as well. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about that and why you like using DView.
DView 7 provides a really simple way for the electricians on site to get an overview of the network. For us IT guys and anyone who works in IT, it's fairly easy to understand how a network hangs together. But trying to express that and explain that to people who don't necessarily work in that sector all the time makes it hard. The DView 7 provides a very good control interface. It lets you do groupings in firmware control and maintenance on equipment, automated configuration to a degree, but also provides a very simplistic visual view of how the network lays out. And depending on your polling rates, also indicates when equipment goes offline. So if there is a problem with the network, the crew who are on shift at that particular time can use that interface to very quickly get an understanding of what's going on the network. The network topology has the topology view. It also has the rack view, so they can go into the rack area and see how and where the actual switches are positioned within a select area. But it also gives you the drill down capability. So they can click on a switch, and if a switch has a problem or a port's offline, they can see that from the graphical interface fairly quickly without actually having admin rights to those particular switches.
I think you mentioned electricians in there, and you mentioned IT people. What are how IT savvy are the electricians that are having to access all of this stuff out on site?
Some of them are quite good, and others don't play in this field too much. So it is different, as you're aware. IT is different to electrical. So in electrical, where they plug something in, you don't necessarily, just because you plugged it in a port, if you're running complex VLANs or access mode versus trunking ports or hybrid ports, there's no understanding for a lot of those electricians on how that works. But there are ones out there who are embracing the technology and running with it. You've also got your automation engineers. So your automation engineers can be electrical too. So they do have an understanding of it, and the process control engineers have a basic understanding of it as well.
Okay, now you mentioned that you're an IT person. Now, it doesn't look like you're out in central Queensland, just at the background that you've got there. You're possibly in central Brisbane. Now you're an IT person. Do you like the GUI on these sorts of things, or is there a different way that you like to manage these products as well?
I do it via both things. So command line, if I have to do a lot and see what's going on, so I still fall back to command line.
Okay.
But the graphical interface, if I'm explaining it to the automation engineers or the process control engineers, I walk through the graphical interface and we stick to it that way because it's simplistic, easy to do, and you can provide how-to guides with a visual representation.
Okay, great. So my last question for you today. So what do you like about D-Link?
A simplistic system to use for the guys, so it's intuitive. We use a lot of the functionalities like the safeguard functionality, which you have the option to enable on the D-Link switches, which means if you get a packet storm or a network broadcast storm, you can actually limit the throughputs based on CPU utilization, especially on the core. So that comes in real handy. Like many switches as well, your storm control functions are fairly easy to use, and that's by limiting the packet rates for broadcast, multicast or unicast to specific levels to trigger back throttling. That comes in really handy if someone in a network creates a loop using some of the older PLC equipment, which won't shut down the ports and produce a broadcast storm.
So, okay, I did say last question, but maybe one more. Obviously, this is all mission critical stuff that's running. What's the rough cost per hour if the network goes down, if something's not working? Within
the actual underground workings, if the network went down, worst case scenario, and trip power, about $1 million an hour.
Okay. All right. So mission critical. We're glad to be. Really glad to be partnering with you, to be a part of your solution and helping you to keep the Australian economy rolling along as well. Haydn, thanks so much for your time. It's been great. I think we've all learned a lot this morning, and thanks for sharing a bit of an insight into longwall coal mining.
Thanks very much for having me.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. Great. Thanks so much, Haydn. Certainly a lot to take in there. I think I'm going to go back and watch the video of that again, just to try to get my head around some of the terminology there as well. That's really excellent. Always great to hear from our customers, and great to see our product being used in some pretty interesting places. Okay, so we've heard from Haydn about DV7 network management. I'd like to pass over to David. David Urbano, pre-sales engineer for D-Link, to give us a quick overview of the DV7 product. David, over to you.
Thanks, Neil. Let me just share the screen. And we're ready to go. All right, hopefully everyone can see this. Hello again, how are you? And thanks, Haydn, again for the great input regarding DView7. So what I'm showing you today is a very quick overview on how DView7 works. First of all, where do we find DView7? The nice thing is that we have a free trial, which gives us 26 nodes, 25 nodes for free. Nodes, for everyone's understanding, is just how many devices you can manage or see on the actual software at once. Where do you get it from? dview.dealing.com. That's the official website for DView7, okay? Very simple, we just go to download, we click on the actual name, and we will have to download two files. One, the full package, which gives us obviously the whole software interface. And second, a patch file, which is just a simple upgrade, the latest upgrade we have from the software. So make sure you do that. The actual upgrade will give you up-to-date tools, basically. There is something else there, which is called Approve. If you are trying to manage devices remotely, you also can do that, but that's when we start looking at using license, okay? But if it's a local network, just the DView full package with the upgrade will do for you, okay? The system requirements are very simple. I prefer always to use a server to install the software. If we have a quick look at the actual specs, this is the specs here of the software. Well, obviously, it will tell you what it's capable of. It works using SNMP protocol. So everything that has got basically SNMP protocol running will be able to give us data and details, and DView7 will be able to find that out on the network. So you will be able to see what's going on with that device. Now, DView7 could be mainly used for D-Link devices, switches, routers, especially switches, I believe, since we have our access points and wireless on a different, using different softwares or management solutions. So this will be especially for switches. On saying that, you can also add other switches from other vendors as well. You wouldn't have necessarily the full capability, but you will be able at least to see whether they are on and off, for example, whether they are still running. So I'll show you a little bit of that in a second. So the specs just there. I'm just quickly showing you the minimum system requirements, right? Just a probably high spec server, more than a PC. I'll say a server just because all this data will be coming through, depending on the size of your network, it will come in through this specific PC or server. So it's better if it's a high spec server, okay? So those are the specs. After we download our files, very actually small files, we just install the software and we log into it. It's got this, I think, very nice graphical interface where we can see data straight away out of the devices, okay? But let me show you first, before we go through how it looks like, let me show you first what we do after it's installed. So the first thing we have to do is discover our devices, our switches, right? In order to do that, first, we need to be on the same network, clearly. We just define a range. In this case, in this particular case, I'm working in different VLANs we have here in this network. And I'm just defining a range for those VLANs to find my devices. So how easy it is, I just go into the discovery settings and I'm start adding the range of where my devices are located, right? So in my case, 10.90.90 from 1 to 254 or 01 to 0254, etc., etc. Now, please remember, DView7 works with SNMP. There are different versions of SNMP. If you're very fussy, which you should be anyway, about security, it's better if you enable SNMP version 3 just because this one will add up encryption and authentication, right? So for our demo purposes, I'm not enabling version 3. I'm just using version 1, version 2, which requires only the SNMP name of the read-only community and the read and write community, right? By default, when you log in into any switch, in our case, D-Link switches clearly, sorry, let me just have a look at one of our switches here. So this is one of our switches, which I'll show you in a second how I manage this switch. Sorry, share the screen. Here we go. Sorry, I clicked somewhere else. All right, so I'm looking at, I'm just logging into a switch. Normal switch, out of the box, D-Link switch. Because I have two, I just changed the IP address to 9.1 and 9.2, and you will see that in a second on the DView 7. So the first thing I have to do before my DView 7 is able to discover the switch is just to enable globally SNMP. By default, SNMP is disabled on every single switch. We just need to come here, hit enable, apply, save, and save the configuration, right? Why do we save the config? Just in case we reboot the switch, this is not gonna get saved. That's just standard. If I wanna enable more stuff for my software to get, I can enable all of this, which I had done. So after I do that on every single of my switches, I can come back here into my software, give it the range, enable my version, and enable the community. Oh, the community, that's what I wanted to show you as well. So by default, on the switches, there are two communities, read-only or read and write. I can change this however I want to, and I should if I enable in version 3, even if I'm not, just for security reasons. It's better not to leave stuff by default, right? It's better to use my own security measures. So by default, it's just public, private, and here that's what I'm configuring here, public and private. After I do that, I add my rules or the range where my switches are, and then I hit discover or save those changes, and then the software starts discovering my switches on those ranges, right? It will start from 0, then we'll go into the number of devices that has been discovered. After that, I just make sure that they are here in the inventory, which they are. If I have some switches that I don't want to see there, I can just hit, let's say, move to and manage, or I can bring them to and manage to manage. Some of our devices here have got SNMP enable by default, printers, for example, things like that. I don't want to manage a printer from DView. Maybe I want to, but for right now, I don't. So I just come back into the inventory. I have my switches, and the nice thing is I can see out of this screen, obviously everything from the switch, from their IP address, MAC address, serial number, firmware version, etc., etc. Very, very nice. Apart from that, so I can see that from the screen, this is the inventory. If I want to see switch by switch, let's say, let's say I go into the actual name of the switch, I can also see from DView 7 the ports that are connected. So I can see whether they're on, whether they're off, is it something going there, and also statistics. So what's happening with the traffic? What else is configured? Currently is just by default, no SSH, no SSH or Telnet. Of course, Telnet, we don't want to enable it, but we don't have anything like that at the moment. This is just default. So just the traffic, this switch has been running for a while, so you can see a little bit of traffic there, and the ports. So how the ports are giving us the statistics. traffic, errors, if there are some, etc. So just out of here, I don't have to log in into the switch to see this. Okay. Something else that I wanted to show you is, in general, what you will be able to see from the View 7. So let me just show you. You can organize the dashboard as you want to. So you can tell what specific details you want to see from the switches. You can also enable some sensors like pings. So you can have pings every 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, etc. And they will show here as well. But in general, you can see all the overview of your network from the View 7. Okay, so very simple. And what we have done right now is basically defaults. I haven't really done much with the software. As soon as you discover the switches, they have SNMP enabled, all the data will come through, okay? There are different stuff here that we can go through, but this is gonna take us quite a bit. I just wanna show you probably 3 nice things that are very useful. One, firmware upgrades. So from the firmware management, I can do my firmware upgrades to all of my switches, at least the switches, obviously, that I can manage through the View 7. So I can see them there. All I need is basically a file, which I will take, obviously, from my computer. I select this one, just to give you guys an idea. This one is for a 1210 series. I have 2 of them, so I select my 1210. And then if I can move this here, I just create a task. The task name, DGS 1210 firmware, right? Give it a description just in case, and it can be done immediately, or I can schedule this. So I want this to be done normally, probably Sundays at 2 a.m. So I have some time just in case something happens. But the good thing is that when you schedule this type of tasks, it will expire. So it's not just gonna go over and over doing it. You can set an expire time. So if it doesn't work, something happened, it just will stop after an hour. This is the way to do it. Simple, you review, those are the switches, correct, submit. So the task has been created and I can see it in the task management. So this is what's gonna happen. So I know it's an active task and it will be, next execute time, it will be done on the 18th at 2 a.m., right? One thing. Second thing, backups. We can do config backups from the View 7, from all of your switches as well. Something we can do from here. So similar to the firmware upload, I can do backups. I select which ones I want to backup, what switches, in this case, all of them. I hit next, same here, backup, configs, switches, whatever you want. One time, recurrent. You can do that as well every week, every month, etc. Every week is probably a good idea, depending on the needs of your network, priorities, etc. Especially the core switch, right? Or it can be done immediately, but let's just schedule it. Same thing, so you can see that for tomorrow at 11:57. So this time. Next, submit, and it went to the task manager again. Okay, so I have 2 tasks. When this happens, it's gonna tell me if there is an error, if there is either success or fail, it's gonna tell me the results of these tasks later on. So I will be able to review, okay? And last thing, that actually something that Haydn mentioned was the topology view, sorry, the rack view, which I think it's also very nice to see from here. If I select the rack view, I have already my switches. I can just create very simple or customize how do I want to see my switches on the View 7. So I create a rack view and I tell the the system to add a new rack. New, let's say I select them all because they are located physically on the same rack, maybe not, but in this case, let's do them all. And I just hit add, and I can see all my switches in one rack. So I can see what's going on with the actual ports just from here, okay? So there are much more than that. But for now, these probably are the ones that are the most popular ones, the most important ones. If you want to know a little bit more about it, please send us email, send me an email directly. Happy to walk you through how to install it. It uses a Mongo database, which is basically a standard universal type of database. It's not proprietary, so every system will support it. It's not, well, system as in only Windows will support DView 7. But at the same time, if you want to see it running as well, you can go to on the actual DView website that I showed you before, dview.dealing.com. You can do the online demo and have a quick look. The hardware that is in there is a bit old. This is just a demo purposes, but if you guys want to know more, just probably jump into it and have a quick look. There is there's more stuff there from what I've showed you. And if you have more questions, of course, please give me an email, send me an email, or give me a buzz. All right. I think that's pretty much it about DView 7. So thank you. Back to Phil.
Great, thank you, David. That was excellent. Always great to get some technical updates as well, some relevant technical updates. Okay, so I'm now going to introduce Jason to everybody. Jason, thanks for waiting so patiently there. Just need to take yourself off.
There we go, unmute.
Excellent. Good morning to you, coming to us from the top end, from Darwin. Great to have you here with us this morning.
Morning team, how are we all?
Great, excellent. So Jason, you're a network engineer at Optic Security Group. How long have you been with Optic? How long have you been in this role?
Been here for about 3 years doing the role that I'm doing now. So we've got quite a few clients all over Australia and New Zealand. I do mainly support for Australia, network engineering and a bit of server and VMware work.
Have you always been based in Darwin?
Only for about the last 20 years.
Right, okay, so just so not very long then.
In Sydney before that, and Adelaide prior to that, but been in IT for a lot of that time.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your experience using D-Link networking products and also our industrial switches as well.
I've been using D-Link probably, I'd say, for the last 10 or 15 years. We did a lot of work in my previous employer across NT schools, and it's quite a popular product for schools. A couple of good reasons for that was price. It's price affected for them. It's very functional, and the warranty is second to none. Probably one of the best warranties we deal with this kind of product. So the clients that we service now are mostly security based. So we would run multi-VLAN networks across a lot of our client sites. We use maybe some CCTV, some access control, some management, some VoIP. So it's important to us that we've got something that's reliable and can manage the amount of traffic that we do need to move around.
Okay, so imagine video traffic. There's a lot of content that's going with that.
Yeah, that's true. And so we just like to keep everything as segregated as we can to keep the networks working as efficiently as we can.
Okay, so on the industrial switch side of things, tell us about some of the customers that you've installed those products into.
We do a lot of, I guess we'd call them secure facilities, where we might have a box halfway up a pole on the side of a road, or in a secure perimeter is surrounding, I guess, a detention centre, for example, or
Okay.
we do a lot of work for police, ports, hospitals, places like that. So we do have a lot of gear sitting outside. It's very hostile here, so we really need something that's reliable and easy to manage.
So you mentioned hostility. You're in Darwin. What are some of the challenges of delivering and managing that sort of a network?
Power up here is a little bit ordinary. Our temperature is fairly extreme. I know a lot of other places around Australia have extreme temperatures, but they usually have the benefit of the temperatures dropping overnight. Ours aren't. It's just relentless. You know, we might drop to 28 overnight and we might be sitting at 35 during the day. So the kit really doesn't get a lot of time to cool down. So, you know, it's just staying hot all the time, still processing traffic all the time. And then we've got rainfall, you know, it's nothing to get. I think our summer rainfall is around about 1.5 meters to 2 meters of rain per year. We have geckos and snakes and spiders and everything living in the cabinets as well. So we really do have a lot of challenges with the equipment that we're using up here.
I'm not sure what's more challenging, the humidity and the hot weather, or a snake.
You get used to them all over time, don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So I think when we were talking last week that so at one of these sites, a detention centre, so the network's been in there for one wet season so far. What are you expecting, you know, to come in the next 12 to 24 months in this particular site?
The next 12 months, we're expecting probably double the rainfall that we had in the last wet season. But what we're not expecting is failure of the equipment. You know, we've had a really good run. The previous vendors that we've had equipment in this site, we're constantly replacing switches both at the core and the edge. It's on a large ironstone deposit, so it's a lightning magnet.
Right.
So not only do we have the issues with our power supply, but then we have, you know, maybe hits up to 20 kVA close to the site, which has been taking out equipment left, right and centre. The client got quite sick of this last year and we said, look, we've had a good run with this D-Link gear on other networks. They were quite happy to give it a try. And we pushed the warranty and the support that we get from D-Link. They were, they were very pleased to hear the past histories that we've had with the equipment. We put it in 12 months ago, set it all up, turned it on. We don't go back.
Okay.
It just works.
So in addition to not having to go back, what are some other things that you like about partnering with D-Link?
I think for this particular environment, you know, we were early adopters of the industrial switches, and we rolled out quite a few of them into the perimeter. We also have a 3600 or a couple of 3600s in the core, and we have 1200s and 1500s at other locations indoors on the site. But we had a few challenges early on with the industrial switches, with just a few, I guess, options that they didn't have that we, you know, would have liked to have. So we raised them with D-Link, and I think the best part of that is, you know, we had new firmware back with all of our requests in there within about 8 days. So that was very good for us. You know, we had the gear on the ground. They weren't massive changes, just IP addressing and extra levels of security that we requested. And we just thought it would take maybe 3 or 4 weeks, but it didn't. It was done very fast for us.
Okay, that's great. I mean, we certainly aim to be a responsive vendor. We certainly aim to meet our customers' needs. I'm glad in that situation we were able to exceed it, and you know, we hope to be able to continue to do that as well. In terms of the local support you get from us here in Australia, what's your experience been with David and with Bernie, our Queensland-based account manager that looks after the Northern Territory as well?
I've been dealing with Bernie for probably my past 3 employers now, and he's been, I don't know how he stayed around for so long. You guys must treat him all right, but it's been good because it's been the same person that we've been able to deal with for so long. The only time we have to deal with anyone else, I guess, is when he finally gets to take a holiday, and even then, you know, we've had no issues. The other good thing is, you know, we just have such good access to the next level engineers like David and Ilya, I know that, if we've got something, I can either raise it through Bernie or I can email one of the guys, and we get some, pretty quick technical support, and comparing, the support that we get from D-Link to other vendors that we use, like D-Link is second to none with that.
Okay. Right. It's great to hear. I'll certainly we'll keep treating Bernie in the same way that we've been treating him, and I'll tell him that his holidays are cancelled as well.
Don't tell him I organised that.
Yeah, we'll tell him that you organised it. Jason, it's great to see you. I look forward to getting up to Darwin and coming and experiencing some of the humidity, the ants, the geckos, and the snakes in the not too distant future. Thanks for your support, and thanks for working with D-Link and for joining us today.
Thanks very much, guys.
Okay. So brings us almost to the end of today's session. So as is usual, as part of these webinars, there will be a survey that will be emailed out to everybody that's attended today with some exclusive NFR or not for resale offers, with some pretty decent discounts available on a range of industrial switches as well. So that'll be emailed out to everybody that's attended the webinar today. If you are joining this course on YouTube, please feel free to drop me a mail, and we'd be happy to send you a survey, and you'll get access to a coupon code as well. There was a question that did come through from Zoltan. So Zoltan, URL to go and grab, that is dview.dlink.com. So please, anybody that's after the trial of the dview software, that is the location to go to, dview.dlink.com. Thanks, David, for that excellent overview and summary of the dview product as well. So, as you've heard from Jason, at Optic Security Group, they've been a D-Link partner for some time. Jason has certainly been working with D-Link at various employers that he's had. So if you are a reseller, an IT reseller, and you're not yet a D-Link partner, we'd certainly commend you to join up to our program. There's some great benefits that's there. There's some upfront discounts that you receive on our range of D-Link for Business networking products. There's some regular quarterly incentives and targets that are there, as well as some additional promotions which we run from time to time as well. So whether you're in Australia or in New Zealand, this partner program is available to you. Please do go and sign up at dlink.com.au/rewards or dlink.co.nz/rewards. Please, it'd be great to have you there, and great to have you benefiting from working with us, just like Jason and his team at Optic Security have as well. Of course, all of our product is available through our network of distributors across both Australia and New Zealand. The distributors are straddling the ditch are Ingram Micro and Synex, and just in Australia only, we've got Blue Chip Infotech, EdSys Hills, Ingram Micro, and last but certainly not least, Multimedia Technology and Pacific Datacom. Please, I'm sure you're dealing with some of those distributors. Talk to your account manager at those distributors as well about working with D-Link. Please go and get signed up to our partner program if you have not yet done so already. Okay. We're going to take some questions and answers. There's a small number of those which are coming through. Before we do that, and we'll just stay on this screen just for a little while, we've got our key contacts of all of the D-Link team across both Australia and New Zealand. We've seen David Urbano has joined us today, pre-sales engineer for the Queensland, NT, New South Wales and the ACT, based in Sydney. Our other pre-sales engineer is Aaron Bilton, based in Melbourne. Good day to you, Aaron, based in Melbourne, looking after VicTaz, SA and WA. New Zealand on the ground, we have our regional sales manager, Paul Batchelor. Paul's based in Wellington and is certainly getting out and about and going and engaging with lots of our partners and customers across New Zealand. In Australia, we've got a team of 3 account managers. We heard Jason sing the praises of Bernie Reisenberger, a long-time D-Linker, been with D-Link just on 12 years, if I'm not mistaken, Bernie. Based in Brisbane, looking after Queensland and NT. In Sydney, Michael Crocrum, a relatively newcomer to D-Link, much as I am as well, been with D-Link just on 3 years, based in Sydney, looking after New South Wales and ACT. And our veteran account manager, Colin Chamberlain, based in Melbourne, looking after VicTaz, SA and WA. Colin's been on board with D-Link for around about 18 years. Of course, Ilya is our commercial product manager. He takes the cake, being with D-Link for just over 20 years. So there's some great continuity and stability that is in the D-Link team, and that's certainly something that our customers and partners can enjoy, our experience and longevity and consistency of service and support we're able to deliver. Speaking of support, you'll see our partner priority support number. This is available to all of our partners. So please, another reason to sign up to our partner program. We do have a free call number in there, both in Australia and New Zealand, 1300 558 053 or 0800 354 656. That does come into our Sydney support office, where you get direct access to our level 2 and level 3 support engineers. Of course, you can contact Aaron and David, or Ilya, or myself with any questions that you might have as well. So, as I said, we will come through to some questions and answers. Just go back to this screen. Feel free to take a screenshot or a photograph of that. Certainly, we very much like hearing from our customers, whether it's via telephone into our switch, on our mobile phone, or via email. Okay, some questions which are coming through. There's a question here from Adrian. What is the purpose of the GPS function for the DWM315? Is it for positioning or for clocking? So thanks, Ilya, who has answered this question via text to Adrian, but certainly something that might be of interest to other people as well. So GPS is able to be used for both purposes. And if you've got central management and monitoring system, like the D-Link DEX solution, which will be launching in Australia very, very soon, you can also track the movement of the device on a map as well. Zoltan wanted a link for the DView7 trial. So just to summarise again, at dview.dlink.com, please go and download a full version of that software there from that website. DView is free to use for up to 25 nodes or devices, so for 25 switches or wireless access points or controllers or thereabout. So please do go and download that software. There's no charge to use that for the first 25 devices. Raymond asked a question. When you use DView to back up groups of switch, will it create an individual backup for each switch? Great question, Raymond. David has answered this one. Certainly not information that I know off the top of my head. It's great to have a great team around me and around all of us to be able to answer these questions. The answer is yes. If you do a group backup, there is an individual backup file per unit. So that's a great way to have that an individual backup file that's there. So a question here from Felix. Will DView see other manufacturers' wireless products? So the answer is yes, you'll be able to see it in DView if that device supports the SNMP protocol. It's a fairly standard protocol, certainly in entry-level or consumer-type products. There may not be SNMP support on that device, so please go and check with that manufacturer's product. But yes, if it supports SNMP, you're going to be able to see that one. Okay, another question here from Felix. Are there any known issues installing DView? So look, really not that we know of. That might be something, Felix, that we might get David or Ilya to get in touch with you to assist you with that. Certainly coming through to our support line would be a great place to go through as well. But we'll make sure that David gets in touch with you just after this session to assist you with anything there. Okay, I don't think I've missed any questions that have come through. Are there any comments which have come through on here? Certainly some good feedback from a number of people regarding both Haydn and Jason. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been great to hear from you. It's always great for us vendors to hear from real world people as to how you're using our products. We're delighted that you've had some great success with using our product and that you're relying on the D-Link industrial switches to help deliver these pretty amazing solutions that that you're delivering for your customers and for your stakeholders as well. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'd like to thank everybody today for being here. David, always great to hear from you and to see you. Thanks for that introduction to DView 7, to Haydn and to Jason. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time, and for Ilya, and of course our wonderful host Stacey in the background for managing this webinar today as well. It's a very good day from me. I'm Phil Tarbox. I'd like to bid you a good day, and we look forward to meeting up with you again on our next D-Link for Business webinar.